Welcome back to Howls and Growls, and today's breakdown is all about Naz Reid. Because not only is Naz Reid a cult hero and the reigning 6th man of the year, but I think it's a little underrated just how important Naz Reid could be for the future of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, the Twin Tower pairing of Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert were really good last season, and I expect them to be really good again next season, but through a combination of age and injury and salary cap implications, it doesn't seem like that pairing is destined to continue together for years to come. And that's why Naz Reid is so important. He's young, he's a seamless fit alongside the rest of Minnesota's young core, and despite the fact that he himself is an impending free agent, he's going to be cheaper to retain than both Towns and Gobert. So going forward, the Wolves might just have to lean into even more Naz Reid, and I think there's a bunch of really sound reasons why that is a good thing. The first reason is that his year-on-year improvement is awesome. As you can see, his numbers have jumped up at a steady rate over the past 3 seasons, all while playing less than 25 minutes a night and providing a spark off the bench for Minnesota. This past season in particular, his 3-point shooting leap, combined with his ability to play as a big wing with the ball in his hands, has turned him into a matchup nightmare. Reid is so quick at getting into those ball screens and then flaring out into a shooting pocket, and that leaves slower defenders a ton of space to have to chase him, and when he gets to those spots, he's knocking down 41.7% of his above the break threes. And it's not just against drop coverage that he thrives. Here the defense is trying to switch the ball screen, with Jackson Jr. pushing up onto the ball and Baines switching out onto the big man, but Reid has that agility and that quick trigger on his jumper, and that kind of renders switching useless. In the modern NBA, having a player who can set screens and use them as a way to create an opening for a 3-point shot is just so important. Reid became a really potent weapon in that sense last season. Maybe even more so than the sweet shooting Karl Anthony Towns, because of how quick and decisive Reid is with his movements and his willingness to let it fly from deep. And really, that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of how difficult Reid is to defend. If the defense sticks a big or a slower forward on him, he's going to roast them off the bounce. If he gets into this position with someone who can't match his swiftness off the bounce, it's curtains for the defense. He's got a ton of ball handling tricks in his bag, he finds slivers of space to squeeze through, and he has a variety of different finishes at the rim with either hand. Reid played more power forward than center last season, but he's still going to have a ton of matchups where bigger and slower bodies are in front of him, and his ability to get downhill and attack those slow feet really became a feature within Minnesota's offense last season. Again, that's just something they don't get from their current big men, and something that really fits in with Coach Chris Finch's principles of playing quick and playing decisive. So some teams chose to stick a guard on Reid to try and negate his advantages as a ball handler and as a driver, but he is really quick to pivot his plan of attack and take those smaller guys into the post, where he has that same array of moves and touch around the rim. When the smaller Aaron Nesmith is checking him here, he ducks into the post, uses his size advantage to get position, and then sprinkles his style on top to finish at the rim. That's how you get into that matchup nightmare zone. He's too quick for bigger bodies to keep up with him as a pick and pop shooter or an off the bounce driver, and he's too skilled in traditional big man things like posting up or sneaking in for offensive rebounds to have a smaller defender guard him for long stretches. When you throw in the fact that he's a supreme roller to the rim coming out of a ball screen as well, he's shown that he can be used in more complex offensive actions as someone who curls off pin down screens and handoff actions, and the fact that he's very comfortable just hanging out in the corner to knock down catch and shoot threes. You get a player who can play every style, fill a bunch of different roles, and thrive alongside almost any kind of player. Right now, he's not cemented as a star in the same way that Gobert and Towns are, but when we're projecting forward in Minnesota's timeline, Reid is the kind of player who allows them to be flexible and build any sort of team they want around Anthony Edwards, while still being able to maximize Reid's unique and exciting skill set. And really being able to fit next to Edwards in a number of different ways is the key to Naz Reid's importance. We don't know how this roster will look in the future, but it's a pretty safe bet that Edwards is going to be at the center of it, and that means any future piece needs to be able to complement Ant, and more importantly, Edwards has to be able to uplift those future pieces. That's the case with Naz Reid. You see here how much better Reid is when he plays with Edwards. He turns from a league average or just above league average shooter into an elite level shooter from deep, and that's even more obvious from the corners, where Reid is a special shooter alongside Edwards and a mediocre one without Ant next to him. And there's a pretty strong correlation between the success Reid has inside the arc and his minutes with Edwards as well. The obvious place where that chemistry starts to bubble is with that corner shooting, because a strong corner shooting big man is exactly what Anthony Edwards needs. And a strong driver of open corner looks is exactly what Naz Reid needs. It's really a match made in heaven for both of those guys. It's all about Edwards and his downhill gravity. When he drives, defenders are drawn to him, and that defender usually comes off the corner. You can see this defender is already dropping off Reid here, and he's going to come even further across to stop Ant's drive, and that's just prying open way too much space for Reid to get an open look from three. And that happens time and time again with these two. Again, the low man is sitting off Reid, and he's going to overcommit when Edwards dusts his man, and Reid is going to be the beneficiary of his downhill gravity. Having a shooter like Naz Reid from the corners and from above the break is just a perfect Robin to Edwards' Batman. It allows Ant to pull defenders into his web and use Reid as an outlet either out of pick and roll, in isolation, or even when Ant gets into his post-up bag. When you mix in Reid's ability to run the floor and shoot off movement, and then you add Edwards' transition talents as well, you get an even better idea of why Naz Reid fits alongside Edwards so well. And considering that Naz Reid's 3-point frequency next to Edwards is about 14% higher than Cat's when he plays next to Ant, it's not a stretch to say that the Wolves are a better spaced, more efficient, and more diverse offense when Reid is playing that power forward role alongside Anthony Edwards. But I do think that those two future foundational pillars are at their best when they can tap into their agility and their willingness to run in transition and create easy points. The Wolves had serious trouble fashioning and converting transition and secondary break points last season, and I think leaning into more Naz Reid alongside Ant is their future as things develop. You can see how Naz Reid's ability to operate as a jumbo-sized gazelle in transition or function as a high IQ rollman, spacer, and ball handler in the half-court is going to fit alongside Ant, but also the likes of Rob Dillingham, Terrence Shannon Jr., and even current players like Jaden McDaniels and Leonard Miller. We've already seen in Summer League in particular that Dillingham and Shannon are going to get out and run, and they're best suited to a team environment that encourages and allows that. If the next version of the Minnesota Timberwolves is based around the superstardom of Anthony Edwards and the multifunctional brilliance of Naz Reid, those two exciting rookies are going to have a platform for success in a system that really suits how they play. So that's why Naz Reid is such a crucial part of this Timberwolves team and this Timberwolves franchise going forward. Not only is he that cult hero and that 6th man of the year behind one of the best front courts in the league, but he's the perfect piece to slide into a bigger role as the years pass and hopefully keep bringing wins to Minnesota. Thanks again for watching Howls and Growls. Hit that subscribe button below for more off-season content.